Greetings, ladies and metalgens, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Comes Now the Arbiter, written by PerilousPlatypus. Comes now the Arbiter! Murmurs of excitement spread through the High Senate as the grand door swung outward to admit a lone figure. The figure strode forward, his shoulders square to the dais at the center of the chamber, the leather soles of his dress boots clacking with each step. The man, in the flesh, aged and worn, was decidedly less impressive than his legend, but he carried himself with confidence and authority. He had been recalled from retirement, plucked from quiet obscurity, and thrust into the heart of grand matters once more. It was said that he'd made his peace on Halcyon for a wayward world of low technology. When the marshals arrived to retrieve him, he had been at a pottery wheel making bowls for the local school. Knowledgeable accounts said that the bowls had been less than impressive. Few were inclined to hold it against him, all things considered. The Arbiter had spent his life at war, so there was presumably little time for the development of unrelated skills. As the marshals approached, he had looked up and asked a single question. How bad? The grimace of their response had been sufficient reply. The Arbiter simply nodded, wiped his hands upon his apron, and informed the marshals that we would be along shortly. Within a day, he was returned to Aureus. Now he was here. The assembly fell into silence as he mounted the dais and came to stand behind the podium. He cleared his throat once and then looked up and around. I never expected to stand before you again. In truth, I had no desire to do so, regardless of your many merits as people. A smattering of chuckles greeted that. I have been informed of the present circumstances and the need for my particular experience. He paused, contemplating his words. If I have learned anything, the only path to peace is through victory. It is my intention to have peace. He nodded to the President of the Senate. She stood and approached the dais, scroll in hand. She offered the scroll to the Arbiter and announced, Arbiter Lucia Sanson, you are hereby commissioned and ordered to take command of the Orion fleets and make war upon the Gizgian until victory is secured. The Arbiter accepted the scroll and offered the President a salute. It will be done, he said. He then turned and stepped away from the dais and began the journey to the exit. Applause rang out until the doors closed behind him. The ceremony had lasted less than 10 minutes. Once he was beyond the doors, the Arbiter exhaled and then tossed the scroll of command to a man standing outside. Get me the hell out of here! Commander Jackson Merry chuckled and offered a lazy salute with the hand holding the scroll. As you wish, Arbiter. Jack, don't piss me off. Lucia had had enough bowing and scraping for one day. Jack and him were beyond that, at least when it was the two of them. 3 decades fighting Giz together was enough to cement that bond. I wouldn't think of it, Lucky. He began to walk away. The shuttle is waiting. Lucia followed. You think there'd be enough space-capable commanders in the fleet that I should be left in peace? Jack snorted. No, there's more than enough. You're just here as a political favor. Principal of that school that you were sending the bowls to is a friend of Senator Franklin. Apparently, the bowls were so fecking bad they asked for help extracting you. I was getting close. They were roundish. Heard 3 children died when they used them for cereal. Terrible stuff. I told the Senate that we'd take you on before you could do any more damage, Jack replied, an enormous crab-eating grin on his face. We loaded up the ships with your bowls, and we're just going to fire them at the enemy. War will be over within a week. Lucia thumped the commander's shoulder. Glad to see you again, Jack. Glad that we're here, Lucky. The grin faded away. We need you. The bridge of the EFF Sanson felt like home. More close enough. It felt like home if someone else had moved in, done renovations, and then redecorated the place. Poorly. Lucia took a few minutes to acclimate himself, his eyes moving between the different stations. The bridge was located deep in the heart of the Sanson, well fortified from attack. It was lightly staffed, with the typical complement being 5, tactical, logistics, comms, steering, and command. As a flagship for the fleet, a 6th position was included for Lucia, though he would often make use of the secondary tactical bridge outfitted for that purpose. The 6 chairs were arranged in a circle around a hollow, the standard arrangement. For now, Jack and Lucia stood on the bridge. Jack thumped one of the command chairs. "Newly minted. The Sensen is the best that we can make." Lucia scowled. "I refuse to work on a board ship named after me." "Pretty presumptuous of you. It could be a different Sensen," he replied, an innocent smile on his face. Lucian looked from Jack to a plaque on the wall on the bridge, reading out, "Christened the EFF Sanson in the year 4021, in honor of Arbiter Lucia Sanson." "You should have come to the ceremony. It was quite touching. All of these folks had so many nice things to say about you." Jack flopped down in the command chair, and there were free sandwiches. Lucia lowered himself into a tactical chair. "All right, then, give it to me straight. I read the overview and scanned a few of the reports, but it's not the full picture." "It's an ugly one, though," Lucia nodded. A few moments passed as Jack searched for the right words. "There is a lot of explanations, a lot of reasons. Everyone has their favorite, but it's not as simple as anyone wants it to be. You coming back is them trying to make it simple, to find easy solution to tough problems. In their head, we were winning when you were in command. Now we aren't. If we want to go back to winning, then we should bring back the Arbiter." "And you don't think it'll make a difference?" Lucia replied, his eyes focusing on the expressions playing across Jack's face. The two of them had been through 100 hells together, and this was the first time he'd seen Jack truly out of sorts. "Crap. I hope it does, Lucky. We'll take any edge that we can get, and your old ass is still sharp enough to cut." Jack reached down and tapped on the console, bringing the hollow to life. An astral map showed the extent of the Orion territory, with large swaths shaded in red to indicate disputed locations. It was a sea of red. A considerably smaller sea than the same map 6 years ago, when Lucia had retired. "My best guess is that we lose this in the next few months." Certain portions highlighted in red shifted to grey. "And this is in the next year." Another broad set of locations shifted color. It'd include 3 core worlds, 1 industrial, 1 breadbasket, 1 mixed. "How are they contesting this much real estate?" Lucia asked. Jack just stared at the map, a frown on his face. "Milint is unsure. My guess. They've found another node network, nothing confirmed, but in a half dozen of these places they shouldn't have access. We've got all the unknown entry points under surveillance." Quiet settled over him. It was a nightmare scenario. So much of astral warfare hinged on the chokeholds created by nodes. A planet was largely impossible to defend. They were massive bodies moving on a fixed trajectory that could be attacked from any angle. But Warp Node was entirely different. The viable warp exit point and the wormholes they connected to were known commodities. They could be surveilled and defended. Control of the nodes granted control of the systems. "Node sieges are down?" Lucia asked. Jack nodded in affirmation. "They're making a show of it still, but their heart isn't in them." Jack raised 2 fingers up in front of him. The hollow projected a small blue ring around the fingers as Jack took control over the projection. The fingers moved back and forth, clicking and separating as Jack highlighted 3 systems, shaded in red in particular. "They've been scouted here, and it's not active conflict yet, and I don't think that they know that we've seen them snooping about. Our deep senses have gotten a lot stronger. They shouldn't be there, Lucky. It should be impossible." The known nodes connected to the system highlighted. Lucia squinted at the hollow and then raised his own hand. The ring of blue attached, and Lucia began to apply filters to the data underpinning the visualization. Time. Reporting sightings, ranges in terms of light years, known node status. Jack offered the occasional observation, but largely remained silent as Lucia navigated the information. Lucia's frown deepened as he continued. "Doesn't add up," he muttered. "Any new class of gear ship come online?" "A few, mostly variations on what we've seen before. Slight increases in beam output and nominally higher shield absorption capacity. They're still weaker than us in a fair fight." "Doesn't give them much of an incentive to fight fair, does it?" Lucia replied. Suddenly his fingers jabbed forward and then spread, targeting a section on the map. Then he held his hand up like a claw, slowly rotating it back and forth, as if he were clutching an invisible knob. The system in the center remained grey, but a number of surrounding systems shifted to red as time moved on. "There's no nodes connecting those," Jack said. "Do you think there might be?" Lucia replied. "Then what?" "Not sure. something. His hand turned back and forth. Then he pulled up the scouting reports, moving down to the vessels picked up by the sensors. 6 different systems, all within 10 light years of that one. No confrontation on their side, but all the listed Giz ships appeared to be the same. He paused and glanced over at Jack. You said we upped our depth sensor tech. Yeah. Do they know? We've kept it under wraps. They aren't fully deployed yet. Reasonable to think that they think that they're outside of our range? Lucia asked. Reasonable, not certain, Jack replied. Lucia nodded. We need to get out there, in force. What is it? Not sure, just a hunch. How about you just tell me what the feck you're seeing so I don't have to spend my time grasping at straws, Jack replied. Need to work on that temper, Jack. Lucia came to a stand, knees popping and old bones creaking. They're boring new wormholes, making new nodes. Jack leaned forward, his eyes wide. That's impossible. Let's hope so. Lucia moved over to the Fleet Command chair and pressed his thumb on the pad beside the chair. Arbiter Sanson. The pad flashed and then turned to green. Fleet supplement request. 3 Nodebreaker class and associated support vessels. 8 Farbeam class and associated support vessels. Request logged. The console flashed. That's a lot of artillery, Jack said. What's the plan? If they're making new nodes, then they're likely to be fortifying them. We find them, we take them, and then we follow them back to wherever they came from and find out what the hell is going on. Sounds so easy. War is easy. Winning is hard. Lucia paused, looking at the map again. Let's just hope I'm wrong. It'll be a lot better for us. Agreed, Arbiter Sanson. That reminds me. Lucia pressed his thumb against the Fleet Command chair. Rechristened flagship, new designation, Judgment. Acknowledged, flagship designation, EFF, Judgment. Jack chuckled. That's a relief. It was a terrible name. We ship out when the supplements arrive. Get them all ready. Yes, Arbiter. And Jack, Lucia gestured towards the wall, get rid of that fecking plaque while you're at it. Jack stood, came to attention, and snapped a crisp salute. Abso-fecking-lutely, Arbiter. Lucia nodded. It's good to be back, Jack. It's good to have you back, Lucky. Also, good to have that senator owe me one for saving all those kids. Get to work, Jack. Yes, Arbiter. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Light Jock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.